takes a step forward.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Captain Diesel, the Luce V of the In and Out podcast. We're one man short, but it's gonna be dope though. We have a special guest, a very special guest. We're live from LA Comic Con. This is the second time we've been here. My guy, do you want to tell the people who you are? I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes, indeed. My name is Brandon Cash. I'm with the Game Fanatics. This is actually my first LA Comic Con. I just moved here in July, so first of many. But no, I just got out with my boys here, Charlie and Otis, and just excited to meet some other talented creators around here who holding it down. So no, excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, first off, I gotta get to Charlie being like slight disrespectful, saying we one man short. I mean, it is three of us as always. It's always three of us.
Fair enough.
We just swap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ethan did not, bleach his skin. He's inside the con. Working the booth. But we met Brandon out last night at a party we went to. Hit it off really well. Really smart guy. So just wanted to kind of pick his brain over, the content space. Talk about a little bit what you do. Let you know more about what we do, and then kind of build from there, man. Yeah. So, if you want to tell the audience, like, who is Brandon Cash? Because I mean, you're pretty swaggy dude, my guy. So good.
No, thank you.
Boy.
Hey, I got this from Disneyland. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. The backstory behind that was on my birthday, November 7th. Scorpio. I went to Disneyland for the first time. Bucket list item, had to go ahead and cross it off again. Moving to LA, I had to kind of get all those things out the way. But I went to the Avengers campus and saw this and immediately gravitated towards it. I was like, that's hot. I saw the price tag on it. It was $85. And I was like, you know what I'm saying? And I had to touch it a couple times. Like, wait, what's the material like? You know what I'm saying? Because if it felt cheap, I ain't want it.
Can I swing out of here with this song?
What's that?
So can you swing out of here with the song? Do I?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and it's one of those purchases you make. When you go to Foot Locker and you just get a new pair of shoes and you're like, all right, I'm about to put these on right now. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how excited I was to get it on. So I went ahead and did that. And all day I got compliments on it. Like, hey, yo, like, where'd you get joint from, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah, it was over here, whatever, kind of feeling myself. Mm-hmm. And then I went back to the store because my friend, the girl I was with, she wanted to go and get it too because she was contemplating it. Mm-hmm. And the guy that I put onto it, he was in there actually holding and looking at it. And he was about to pull it off the rack, but then he saw the price tag. And he was like, and he stepped back. And then I was telling my homegirl, I was like, well, hey, don't feel so bad because it was a little pricey for her. Mm-hmm. I was going to tell her, like, don't feel so bad because dude I put on wasn't about to get it. But in that moment, I saw him, like, pacing, like, back and forth, like, and he went back up to it and grabbed it. So we saw a man make the decision in his head right then and there to go and grab it. So she had to go ahead and get hers. So we got matching little sweaters, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, the story behind it. And so this is the first time that I can show out with it. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a good time for it. I mean,
yeah.
Comic-Con, you're wearing one of the most iconic, people ever.
That back is cool.
Yeah. The back is better.
What I will say, one thing I want to say, we talked about this a couple of times in the pod, and even in private before. Very rarely do I interact with people randomly and just have automatic connection through conversation. We're outside at this party kind of just chilling, me doing the most, and as we normally do. And Brendan's just there. And I'm not really looking at him because I'm just like, I don't want to bother nobody. Yeah. And you just start cracking jokes and shit. I'm like, oh, this nigga's funny. This nigga's hilarious. And then we literally just hit it off like that. So I do want to thank you for just being genuinely you, bro. Because very rarely do we meet individuals. We just, like, I'm already kind of an outgoing, friendly person, and Otis is as well. But Otis is also predominantly an asshole, and he will tell you that himself. So for the fact you got along with all three of us with three different types of personalities shows a lot about you. And that's one of the main reasons we want to have you on.
Wait.
Conversation.
Can you got to defend your honor here. Wait a minute. Explain the asshole bit.
So he's not wrong. I kind of make it a thing to, like, when I hear someone say something that I disagree with, they're gonna know that I disagree with it, no matter how you like someone can just say, oh, I love fairy tale so much, it's the greatest thing, I got it tattooed on here, and I was like, it's trash. it's garbage. Like I don't know why you enjoy it. Like the story building is like. No, I'm not gonna do it today.
I'll be having to preface people.
No,
I'm
we
like,
get into that. We gotta get into all that. No, that'll come.
I tell people, I'm like, oh, this is my dude. I promise he's not that much of an asshole. This is a character, but it's not
a
at the same time.
But it's not.
It is.
It's like Joe Budden.
Yeah.
He's like,
It's
hey,
compulsion,
where's the start,
bro.
where's it end?
Yeah. It's compulsion. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, as soon as I hear something like, wait, you said you like what? Oh no, we gotta deconstruct that. But yeah, like even with that, we had like some back and forth on some anime that we like. We of course we both big fans of Yu Yu Hakusho. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty goated. Yusuke is still the greatest shonen protagonist of all time to me. I'll stand on that. But no, like just natural progression from the comic stuff to the anime stuff to music, the vibe of the party. Like you kind of really initiated a lot of conversations for us last night. And we really appreciated it, man. So
Will you tell the people just your journey into, I guess, content creation? Because you told us who you work for. Break down exactly what you do within the companies you work with.
So I've always sort of, I dabbled in content creation. However, I am neurodivergent, and it is very hard for me to be consistent with any sort of regiment or schedule. And that's why I'd be surprised. I told these gentlemen that I had joined the military for 11 years, so it's hard to be like, hey, yo, you must be ready. You must be used to regimental stuff. And in a way, yeah, but it's always very hard to institutionalize someone like me. So it was hardly ever something that I would just do on my own. But what I found my niche in is something that I'm really good at is enabling and activating and getting other people kind of in their bag, and amping them up. And whether that's working behind the scenes, whether that's working adjacent to them, directly with them, or even taking the reins on the occasion myself, I found that was a kind of my superpower in how I engage. And so I started my journey. I'd always been into anime my whole life. I'd always been the weird nerd kid until the weird nerd kid became the thing. And now it's like, hey, I'm just like a dime a dozen. Back in 2014, I started a WordPress, like just kind of blogging, like doing video game reviews. I was into writing and that sort of thing. And so I just kind of, up in my portfolio, doing it for fun. And then in 2017, I was like, hey, yo, like, I think I can, kind of take off and do this stuff, journalistically. And so I submitted my portfolio to a few outlets at the time. It was thegamer.com and keengamer.com. And they both liked what they saw, and so they took me on as a freelance, and just started writing stuff for them. And so again, that was just like video game previews, reviews, tech articles, all those sorts of things. And then what really kind of got me impassioned was my first coverage of E3. That was 2018. And then in 2019, actually, that's where I met folks from the Game Fanatics. I was working the beat there for Keen Gamer at the time, and we were in line for the Microsoft press conference or their convention. That's when Keanu Reeves went on stage and said, "We're breathtaking, you're breathtaking." And so I really was vibing with the Fanatics and what they did. And again, just seeing folks like us, Black and Brown, BIPOC creators and things, it's already a limited space. And so you're finding another niche just within that limited scope already. It's hard. So, it felt very organic, how we had linked up. It was the same way that I linked up with them. And so, yeah, I went to the Facebook gaming after party with them and just hit it off. And then a few months later, I had reached out to King Julian. So right now, the Game Fanatics is basically 3 people. Julian he does most of the work, absolutely most of the work. I just got back on board with the creation and things. And Charles is actually the owner of the site. He started it. And so, yeah, ever since then, I was, got taken on as like the community manager, just kind of like a Swiss Army knife, doing all those sorts of things. But now, ever since I got into LA, it's just been all like, all right, let me hit the ground running. Let me go ahead and do this and get us back turned on. And so, that's basically leading up to this. And yeah, I got up with you guys. I've actually had some interactions within the same sorts of groups, with Blerd and all that, and yeah. So it's small world in a matter of speaking.
Yeah, I respect it, man. Again, it Charlie put it nicely. I am a little bit of an asshole, so kind of pressing on antisocial to a degree. So the fact that we were able to hit it off the way we did was it really was special to me. So I appreciate you there, man. You mentioned E3. How do you feel about like actually basically being there for the death of it? Like,
Yeah.
how did that strike you? What do you feel about the where video game conventions are going? Do you think that there is a need to fill a void? Do you think it's kind of dying off? Like, do you think that the mediums are switching up so they're just their own promotion for their own IPs and products? Like, what do you feel about that?
I think it's a great question, and just reflecting on it now, that was the last E3, wasn't it? 2019. I do remember my first E3 because not only was my first coverage of E3 in 2018, that was the first time I ever went to E3, and I just remember how enamored I was. For me, it was like just a childhood dream. Like, I'm seeing cosplay, I'm seeing video games, I'm playing games, I'm talking to developers, I'm getting all these emails from developers to review their game. First time I even heard B-roll and what that was, like I was an amateur, but it felt like I was being immersed in a world that I truly just could be myself. 100% inauthentic or just authenticity and all that. And so, but the vibe from other folks there, the bigger publications, it was very much like this is sort of the big dreaded event every year because it's just a really packed in weekend. They have a very strict schedule and all these sorts of things. And so a lot of folks who was there, like my contemporaries, were not looking forward to it. And here I am like this, kid in a candy store, like, oh my gosh. And so I'm sure they got sick of that energy. And then E3, it got announced in 2020, of course, because of the pandemic, that it wasn't gonna be on. It was gonna be a hiatus, and now we know it was essentially the death of it at this point. And I think the sentiment is starting to change now because back then a lot of the studios were all like, well, we're gonna start our own thing. Like, E3 is redundant. Like, what is the purpose of this? So, we're all gonna do this, and that. And then so what ended up happening was after a few years of developers just sort of doing their thing, the general audience, they don't have like a big culminating event where everybody can just kind of be more celebratory. And that's what E3 also acted as, at least from a fan's perspective. Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing now, from my opinion, are a lot of folks who are feeling a little bit like, well, where's we need an E3. Yeah, there's a void. And the Game Award shows, which I will be at, by the way, covering that as well, is sort of filling that void. And I think Jeff is doing a really, really good job as far as facilitating it from an event perspective. But again, I just think that there's not, without E3, I think there's a craving or a hunger for like that culminating event every year, our Super Bowl, right? And whatever that's going to be, if it's a game show, if it's going to be something else, I do feel like the sentiment has completely swung from back when people were just kind of tired of it.
One thing I will say, and a question I have for you in that regard, is you're starting to see an uprising of a lot of BIPOC-oriented conventions like DreamCon, BlerdCon, things of that nature. And as we know, and especially in American culture and a lot of the different instances through the world, usually whatever the brown and black people are on is what becomes the standard and becomes the trendy thing. Do you feel like that the avenue that E3 or a lot of those outdated gaming conventions are going to take is kind of investing more into these black-oriented things? We know, like with DreamCon, there was I think Nintendo was a sponsor, and like some of those legendary gaming studios and companies that are part of it. I think at least that's my theory, is that that's the route things are going to go. You're starting to see the uprising and all these different content creators going there, and they're bringing their communities there. It is just, it's one easy promotion in a way that I just feel like I think that's the direction things are going.
Yeah, honestly, before I let you go on that, I think that the game community is actually trying to kind of figure that out to themselves, because I think initially they had like, oh yeah, we don't necessarily need E3 because we're gonna showcase our stuff ourselves. But then you see the overall climate of gaming has changed dramatically in that time. Like, it's so much more difficult to actually promote a game to multiple people because you have less places where the general attention of the gaming world is focused at. Like, pretty much right now, the only, like, unless it's like Evo or the Video Game Awards, like, the overall attention of the video game community is so fractured now that it's really difficult to like really say like, okay, this is where I'm gonna place this piece of content to make sure that it's seen by the maximum amount of people. What do you have any thoughts on that at all?
I know we give you like a lot to chew on.
A lot to chew on there. I'm a good chewer. So, but no, I think that, hey, yo, said big pause. Hold on. No, don't do me. But I think that my initial thoughts to that is, I think that if we just talk about, I think video games right now is all about, video games are becoming pop culture. And, you know, they always had been pop culture, but now with social media being so prominent as it is, and in the bite-sized social media, like with Reels and things, it's so much easier to just get that out and just churn and get content moving really quickly. And so like all of pop culture, what we see is, I mean, in America at least, which reverberates across the globe, what do we see dominating pop culture most times? It's usually Black creators. You know, whether that's dancing, whether that's hip hop, fashion, sports, Black creators are typically the ones who are at the forefront, you know, the tip of the spear. And so we're seeing that now with, I think, anime and video games and the content creation with that. Obviously, some of the most prominent creators in that space right now are RDC World, and I think that you know Mark and his team and what they do so well is being like, I mean, just like your best friend, like the homie that you just kind of shoot the shit with, talking about anime and games, and you know, in a matter of speaking, that's what they do, but they make it. You know, they make it into content. And as the years gone by, they started blending in like the things that they were naturally good at. Humor, comedy, roasting, like these things that, that are just embedded within popular culture because of their innate interest within the space of anime and comics, in video games. Those things start to get elevated. And so now we're seeing Black creators sort of, taking that wave and really running with it and just kind of opening the doors for a lot of folks, Black, brown, white, whatever color you are, because it's becoming cool in so many ways. And so I think that's what I have to say as far as where where we are at. But as far as where we're going, I think that the future is bright for many different creators to express themselves, not just within the space of content creating in, like, say, the conventional way we're seeing within YouTube, TikToks or any, videos, Twitch, streaming. But now we're starting to see, and I saw, Otis having a conversation with a young man who stopped at his booth today, talking about, creating comics, because Blerd, they create comics. And so we're seeing artists doing their thing. You have a comic. These sorts of things are now being expressed at every level, granular level. Yesterday, I met with Tony, who had created BPM Boy. It was one of the indie games that I was covering that I'm reviewing, and I was learning a little bit about Tony. And Tony's a Black man. He was there with his son Logan, and what struck me about the game, immediately was the style. It just looked like Fusion Frenzy, like that old Xbox game, and Monkey Ball just had a baby. And as I was talking to Tony, I'm like, man, he'd been heavy in the game for a minute. Black developer. Right. And then, he told me that he had worked, Crystal Dynamics. He had worked on Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, which is one of my favorites all time. Yeah, like he had worked on that. He had worked on all these, he just was kind of naming all these games that he had a hand in. And I'm sitting here like, hey, yo, you got this story that I would love to share. It's because, Black game developers have been in the business for a minute. And again, we're talking about these sort of less prominent roles within the space, but are just as important. And now that's where I think the next step as far as where we're going is that we're going to start seeing more black and brown folks enter these spaces because those are becoming more well known in those spaces. And it's people like you guys who are elevating that and letting people know, like, this is what else you can do. And I think that that next generation of folks who are coming in there are going to really be inspired by those sorts of stories and being enabled in that way.
See, the anarchist in me wants to see the system crumble. And I say that for the fact of we interviewed a guy named Ben from Maker Olivia. I probably killed his last name, but forgive me, Ben. He was one of the game developers for the Harry Potter Legacy game that came out recently. And he was talking about like the dilemma he had of being a queer BIPOC person and working with a lot of the controversy surrounding that franchise and J.K. Rowling. And I'm like, I see dudes like that where you're so talented and you have gone through these moral dilemmas to feed yourself. I'm like, I want to see you branch out and do your own thing so bad. Yeah. And a part of that too was with the SAG After Strike. I'm like, man, all these talented people that are responsible for these millions of dollars and these great projects being written and created, I wish you guys would just band together and do your own thing. Yes. And I know it'd be a little difficult to, market it in certain ways too, because you don't have that system behind you. But man, I'm all a fan of just let everything else fall, because these studios, these production companies, they just don't have passion and don't let these people that are passionate about what they do really showcase that passion a lot. It starts to get formulaic, and you're seeing that with all these games that are releasing that are unfinished, or all kinds of DLC that probably could have been in the games, not in the game. But it's the running trend that you're seeing through all different types of games of issues that we're having.
No, yeah, that's fire. I'm sorry, but no, I think honestly we're already in the process of seeing the system crumble to a degree. Because I mean, the perception around AAA games has shifted massively, right? If it was 11, 12 years ago, we'd be saying like, Call of Duty was still one of the better games out there on the market. Of course, the sports games were like, really hitting their peak and like having a large investment from everyone in the game community. Fast forward to now, like we just literally walked past somebody in a cosplay that said Call of Booty. You know what I'm saying? Like that happened.
I think that was because for different reasons, though.
Yeah. But I mean, like
the wrong video game.
I got the wrong way. Right. I mean, everyone has such a big stigma behind these big companies like Activision, EA.
2K Interactive.
2K, like there's so many closeted stories that are kind of coming out to the forefront about things that have happened while working on these video games, within the promotion of those games. Like, I really think that the distance between the indie creators and the big boys is really slimming down at a very fast rate. I think even like things like the Unreal Engine, the Unreal 5 engine that just came out, really changes the landscape because it gives like independent creators the ability to render something at a level that was completely non-accessible to us before. Mm-hmm. I think it's really just a matter of time before an indie creator somehow gets enough funding to put out a large-scale project that really shakes up what we view as a AAA game, because what we do see as a AAA game are now starting to fail to a degree. Like, we see a major decline in the amount of content created around Call of Duty, 2K, but then you see the rise of like other things like Apex, Fortnite, who were initially like, smaller studios within those AAA, and then kind of branched off and started doing their own thing and be able to find a way to gain funding and increase what they do overall. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like there's only a matter of time. I don't think it's I don't think they have the ability to connect with audiences the way that the creators do now, the independent creators do now, just because we are here. Like, we live it, we see it every day. I'm just really waiting for the game that really breaks through. I think one small example of what it could be is a game that we've been playing. We played not too long ago. Was Remnant 2. That's
I love Remnant 2.
Great game, right? Yeah. Indie game, right? Yeah. It had no major development behind it. They just put out a DLC behind it, and it changed the whole feel of the game. It's become so much better.
Yeah.
I think we're going to just see more passion projects like that become more and more prominent, gain more popularity, and I'm excited for it.
On that same trend too, just to add 2 more examples of it, reasons why I'm so a Sony pony, self-proclaimed. You see projects like Insomniac Spider-Man. You see projects like God of War, to where they'll drop like behind-the-scenes footage on these people working on this project and talking about how they love coming into work every day and working on this stuff. And there's a reason why those tend to shine above everything else, and the quality shows are a lot, because they're fans first and foremost of what they do and what they work on.
I think that what we're seeing, and you both hit the nail on the head with AAA development, is these games are becoming too big to fail. We're seeing these large just investments of just insurmountable buckets of money that goes into these things. And now we're not just talking about, money that's unaccounted for. This is people's livelihood. I mean, we saw the fall of THQ and what was going on with them. And, and they had poured money, so much money into just developing things for children. And it was going so well, but what they weren't doing, they weren't anticipating what the market would look like, right? They were just kind of riding that high, riding that wave. And then, hey, they collapsed. And so what we're seeing with these developers now, and especially in the age of microtransactions, is that everything needs to be a live service model. Everything needs to accumulate and satisfy shareholders, right? And so it becomes exactly right. And so even with games so we're losing like that kind of creative flair that makes these games so interesting and why we're passionate about it, right? Like that kind of what's that Sid Meier's concept? Hey, one more turn, right? Like we're not getting that with these games. Now that one more turn is becoming more of a insidious, pervasive, like, I need to keep you hooked in. I need you to do dailies. I need you to keep coming back. So now the game rather just feels like you want to keep coming back. It's more of a chore. You have to. One franchise that comes to mind with that, and I hate that I play it, but I love basketball, is NBA 2K. It feels like a job, and this is like, and me and the homies been playing 2K for a minute. But even some of the most diehard fans that we have are just walking away from it because I want to keep grinding out badges. I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on one build. And if you aren't doing that, and that's more insidious because it is a competitive space. If you do not spend money, true as to a pay-to-win model, you will not keep up, and there's no forgiving model to it. Like, say if you messed up your build, I mean, just 2 patches later, you could have, your build can mean nothing. And so what do? You just keep riding with it? No, you spend money, because what's the realistic prospect there? You're going to grind my career for 2 months? No, it's not going to happen. And they know what they're doing. And so that's one example that I think of. And that's why it's so important that we sort of find those indie developers who are finding why we play video games. You mentioned Remnant 2. I played Remnant 2 way more than I played 2K this year. It is because it made me want to continue playing it. I played Baldur's Gate 3 more than I played any other game that I've played this year. And that was one that was really the brain trust of people who care and are passionate about the video game industry. And so you talk about these games that should not within a conventional model work, right? But they're starting to work because you're seeing gamers who are feeling disenfranchised because they are expected to spend so much money to keep video game companies afloat. And then now we see a rise of game developers who are just trying to find that heart of gaming. And so that's my more optimistic take. You guys might have more of a bit of pessimistic look, as we look in the next few years. I think that AA, not just indies, but that AA game is going to be kind of the heart to the future of gaming.
I'm a little bit in between. The pessimistic side of things, where I realize that myself and my colleagues we are part of the problem when it comes to 2K, because we know the issues with it. We know what not to do, but it's I'm still playing it. I'm still grinding those badges. I'm part of the problem. I understand it. And the community doesn't help either with how the content creators create content around the stuff, because it's this best build or this is the way to glitch the game or do X, Y, and Z. But it is what it is. But the optimistic side of things, to your point, the market's there. Because how many times have you had a conversation with a friend about 2K and it's like, man, I wish Live was back. Man, I wish there was a competitive basketball game that was out there. And for some people, it doesn't even need to be NBA related. It can just be NBA Street. I've heard people say they want NBA Street back. So if somebody can come around and develop that thing, I think it can take over. It's just a matter of somebody spending the time and the resources to do that stuff. It's tough, man. I really wanted it to happen so bad, but at some point, I know I need to stop being a part of the problem, but it's so hard. Because like you said, I'm a basketball fanatic and playing with the homies. I'm like, man, let's get in the pro. Let's compete and have fun in the basketball. This is the first year I did like a 2K tournament with 5-on-5 with the homies, and I had a blast. Still acknowledging the game is toxic at its core. I spent the money on the builds. I spent the time rounding the badges. Man, I hate myself for doing it, but I had to do it.
Yeah, you're right. I think that and I feel like we're really juicing 2K right now. But I will say that I am a part of the problem. I tried not to be a part of the problem, but I am. And that, like, you know, I'm a competitive person, and I like to excel at what I do. And you know, I fell within the trap of you know, okay, well, no, this year I'll play 2K, but I'm not going to spend $1. That lasted a week. And then I ended up having to spend money on it because I went to the park. Oh, they'll find ways to get you. You know, because if you go to the park and, you know, because you can't spin the wheel now unless you play your park games. And so here I am thinking like, oh, I'm going to get my wheel. And you could actually make so much VC off of spinning that wheel. And so for me, who was going to do no money, I needed to go ahead and spin that wheel. But to do that, you had to get an affiliation this year.
Even when they add a concept of like the badge stoppers, because in this year they added the way the badges work is you have to play to upgrade them, which I'm like, okay, that's a great concept because if you play a certain way, these badges are going to go up, and it's your players getting good at these things according to how you play. Yeah. But in order for you not to lose progression on that, you can get these stoppers. But how do you get these stoppers? By buying the season pass. Not just the regular version of the season pass, but the $20 version of the season pass, and you get to have a little bit easier time playing the game and competing in this stuff. And I'm just like, damn, man, I want to stop being a part of the problem, but I need, and I tried. I played NBA Live, I think 18 was the last one I played, or whichever one Damian Lillard was on the cover of. Okay. That was the last one I played, and I was like, it's just not 2K, man.
I tried 19 just because, but you're right. And I think this 2K is particularly nasty because they added two of the worst, most egregious pay to win features that I think I've ever seen in video games. Is that not only you spending $70 on the game. Oh, by the way, that's the base version. Right. If you want the special versions, you gotta dump the 100. Oh, if you want the 150 to get the league pass, which don't get the league pass, y'all.
League pass is trash
it's
too.
Terrible. But if you that's a $150 right there. So say you spend the $150, right? That's still not enough. It gets you about 100,000 VC, right around then.
Right.
100,000 VC, and maybe get you to like an 85.
Maybe like an 84.
Yeah, it inflates every year. So you still got to dump a lot more money into it. And so then you have to spend a little more VC, right? And then now you have the badge progression system, right? And then now you have to compete through the seasons to get the stoppers if you really want those, and you need those. And then they have a season pass, right? On top of all this other money you have to spend. They have a $10 season pass or the $20 version of a season pass, and I think they have 9 seasons.
And wait, there's more. If you don't want to grind through the season pass, you can buy the levels in the season.
And pass. you can buy level skips. And oh, by the way, guys, this does not every year. This does not go to 2K25. Like it all refreshes next year, and so yeah, technically you can keep playing 2K24. But like, who does that? Like, you go to the next game, and so you're actually not keeping any of this digital stuff that you're doing. The VC does not transfer from game to game, and so clown noses like me go and spend this money only for it to be uprooted, and you're starting this cycle again the next year, and nothing to show for it.
And it's particularly nasty for the main factor of they milked Kobe. I knew what it was going to be when it was 24. And me being a Laker fan and Kobe being my favorite player of all time, I knew it was going to happen. I knew I was going to fall for it. On the intro game every time, they had Lil Wayne come in and do a whole Kobe theme song, a Kobe intro. Kobe's everywhere all over it. There's the Kobe edition, the Mamba edition. And then you go through 4 different promotional ads before you even get to the game. Yeah. And I'm just like, it's just so blatantly evil in my eyes. I'm not going to lie to you. But again, I'm part of the problem because I think I bought the Mamba edition. just because I'm like, it's Kobe. It's Kobe. I got to do it. That's my goal.
Don't talk to me about no goats.
Oh,
Cause Kobe couldn't, and I love Kobe. Like when obviously when Kobe passed.